from a public policy perspective, how do you square, this desire of saying, okay, well, the system should only pay so much. There should be an upper limit to how much it pays. But then everybody's favorite solution is to say, well, we're going to cap the benefits, but we don't want to cap the tax. I mean, most European countries, for example, they have a cap on their taxable maximum. Why is there such interest in taking the cap off of the maximum here?
A lot of this goes back to Social Security's history, but one of the reasons why Social Security is so difficult to change today is that people feel this was an earned benefit. They say this is not a welfare benefit given to me, just by, the grace of the federal government. This is something I earned that I paid for. And what contributes to that feeling this is something you earned and you paid for is there isn't massive redistribution from the rich to the poor in Social Security. I mean, clearly there is. It's a progressive system, but that cap on payroll taxes was put in so that this doesn't become to look like a welfare program. And FDR was very clear. He said, I want this to people to feel like they've earned, they own their benefits. I don't want this to look like what in those days they called relief to what we'd call welfare today. And at the same time, though, people will think it's just common sense. It's crazy. How come we don't apply this payroll tax to all earnings? Why do we cap it at $160,000? Well, it's precisely for the reason that FDR said, because we don't want this to look like a welfare program. The interesting thing, when you look at press discussions or media discussions of that Social Security, maximum taxable salary is, people just say act as if it's just crazy that we don't tax all earnings, when in fact we tax more earnings than most other countries do. If you're in Canada, I think the maximum taxable salary there is somewhere around $70,000. In the UK, it's similar. In France, it's similar to that. I think it's actually got $55,000 there. We are unusual in having such a high cap on wages that are taxed. But as you said, Steve, since the tax and the benefit formulas go together, the result of that is we end up paying already much higher benefits to high wage earners than other countries. The maximum Social Security benefit, that $42,000 I talked about, is 2 to 3 times higher than what you would get in Australia or the United Kingdom or Canada or New Zealand, countries which are sort of similar to us. And they pay dramatically lower benefits to high earners than we do. What they also do, though, is they pay higher benefits to low earners. So those programs, those other countries are a much better safety net against poverty than Social Security is. But one way they finance that is not by having these extravagant benefits for the rich. So the US Social Security program is really unusual compared to a lot of other countries, but it's unusual in ways that are making it harder and harder to fix and also make it less effective as social insurance. You're not helping the people at the bottom who really need it the most. For rich people, you're simply giving them benefits that they could have provided on their own by saving in a 401k. So it's just not, the solvency problem is obviously a big issue, but Social Security is a government program like any other, and we should always be looking at how we can make this work better for people, give better protection at lower cost. There's really not enough interest in that in Congress, though.
Yeah, so does that suggest perhaps a grounds for political compromise? I mean, the Democrats have, it used to be there was a bipartisan consensus that, yeah, we're going to have to raise taxes and cut benefits. Now it's like the Republicans are saying, well, no, we're not going to raise taxes. And the Democrats are saying we're not going to cut benefits. In fact, not only are we not going to cut them, we're going to increase them.
Yes.
So in terms of the redistribution here, there have been some talks, for example, of as part of reform, of beefing up the minimum benefit. I mean, making sausage here, does buying off votes in constituencies and saying, look, as part of reform, we're going to increase benefits for some, but of course, by definition, that means you're going to have to cut them even more for somebody else. But does that perhaps create some momentum for reform by doing more redistribution?
If you had asked me this 15 or 20 years ago, I would have said yes. I think the thinking in George W. Bush's administration was we'll make Social Security smaller but more progressive, meaning we'll cut benefits a lot in the middle and the upper income areas to make the system solvent without raising taxes. But we're going to use some of those savings to improve the safety net for people at the bottom. And common sense would make you think that small but progressive would be the sweet spot for a compromise between Republicans and Democrats. I just don't think that. It doesn't sell with Democrats anymore. Where they are now is well to the left of where they were 20 years ago. I mean, the whole spectrum, the whole political spectrum on Social Security has shifted to the left. 20 years ago, you could have had a bipartisan deal that would have essentially split the difference between tax increases and benefit cuts. You would have had a bit of a tax increase, but you would have had, some stuff in the retirement age or the COLA or whatever. Republicans should have gone along with it. They could have had a good deal back then. Since then, though, most Democrats overwhelmingly say we will not cut benefits in any way. In fact, we want to increase benefits and raise taxes to finance it. Some Republicans still want to fix the system by reducing benefits, like the Conservative Republican Study Committee. But former President Trump is saying, I'm not going to cut benefits at all. He has the same policy position that President Biden does. It's just he has no idea at all how he's going to finance it. I mean, literally no idea. So it's the window of how you package together a deal. For Social Security, I think for many Democrats, the tax increases aren't just to finance benefits, because a lot of those are going to be financing benefits for rich people. It is a symbolic thing that we're sick of having, these programs cut. And so they just said, we're just not going to do it. But at the same time, they kind of know politically they can't pass an all tax increases bill themselves. So I think the strategy, you wait it out and then you squeeze the Republicans to go along with tax increases. But another 10 years, though, and that's going to be really, really tough to do.